A Greek proverb says that a society grows great when old men plant trees whose shade they know they shall never sit in. It's a beautiful idea, isn't it? A promise of progress, of building a better world for those who come after us. But what happens when the trees stop growing? What happens when the shade shrinks and the next generation is left standing in the sun? We've all heard the stories, seen the black and white photos. For centuries, progress felt like an unbreakable law of nature. Every generation was expected to live better, achieve more, and be more secure than the last. It was the fundamental promise of the modern world, the engine that drove our parents and grandparents. They studied, they worked, they built. They believed that if they followed the rules, their children would inherit a world filled with even more opportunity. This wasn't just a dream. For a long time, it was a reality. From the post-war boom that saw families buying their first homes with picket fences, to the optimism of college graduations in the 80s and 90s, where a degree was a golden ticket to a stable career. The path was clear, but somewhere along the way, that path disappeared. The promise was broken. For the first time in modern history, we are the generation that is not expected to be better off than our parents. The escalator of progress has stopped, and for many, it feels like it's going down. Let's look at the numbers, because they tell a stark story. Today's young professionals are the most educated generation in history. We have more degrees, more qualifications, and more skills than any who came before. Yet, we own significantly less wealth than our parents did at the same age. We see our parents and their peers, many of whom settled into suburban homes in their 20s and 30s, building equity and security. Meanwhile, a huge portion of our generation is packed into small, rented apartments, where the monthly payment builds someone else's wealth, not our own. We earn more, but we keep less. The cost of living has skyrocketed, while wages have stagnated. The result? A generation running on a treadmill, working harder and harder just to stay in the same place. This isn't a failure of ambition, it's a failure of the system. The very definition of a middle-class life, a home, a family, a secure retirement, has drifted out of reach for millions. The world of work has been completely transformed. The stable, lifelong career that defined our parents' generation has all but vanished. That 9-to-5 job with a pension and benefits? It's become a relic of a bygone era. In its place, we have the gig economy. The language itself tells the story. Security was replaced with flexibility. Career was replaced with contract. Stability was replaced with hustle. We've become a generation of freelancers, gig workers, and short-term contractors, constantly chasing the next project, the next paycheck. The 9-to-5 grind has morphed into a 24/7 hustle, where our phones are our offices and the line between work and life has been completely erased. This new economy promises freedom, but what it often delivers is profound uncertainty. How can you plan for a future, buy a house, start a family, save for retirement, when you don't know where your income will come from next month? The constant pressure to perform, to be available, to always be on, is taking a hidden toll on our mental and financial well-being. And then there's the weight of education. For generations, a college degree was seen as the great equalizer, the most reliable ladder to upward mobility. It was an investment that guaranteed a better future. Today, for many, that ladder has turned into a trapdoor. The pursuit of higher education, once a public good, has become a private burden. We were told to go to college, to get the best education possible, no matter the cost. And we did. We took out loans, believing it was the only way to secure a good job. But now, millions are shackled by student debt that feels impossible to repay. These loans aren't just numbers on a statement. They are a constant, suffocating weight that dictates every life choice. They delay homeownership, marriage, and starting families. Education, the very thing that was meant to set us free, has become a financial prison for an entire generation. It's a debt that outlives hope, a mortgage on a future that seems to grow more distant with each payment. How did we get here? It wasn't an accident. it was the result of decades of policy choices. If you look back at the archival footage, you see politicians from all sides promising opportunity, prosperity, and a fair shot for everyone. But while the speeches were being made, the rules of the game were being rewritten. The very systems that allowed previous generations to thrive were dismantled. Governments that once invested heavily in public universities, making education affordable or even free, began to cut funding. Tuition fees soared, shifting the cost directly onto students and their families. The same thing happened with housing. Policies that once encouraged the construction of affordable homes were replaced by those that favored developers and financial speculation, sending property prices into the stratosphere. One generation was given the tools to build wealth, the next was handed the bill. It's a quiet, slow-motion transfer of wealth that has happened right before our eyes. Ultimately, the great divide in our society today isn't just about age. It's about property. It's about who owns and who rents, who builds equity and who pays someone else's mortgage. The homes that our parents' generation bought for a fraction of their current value have become their single greatest source of wealth. For them, a house was a home. For us, that same house is an impossibly expensive asset, a commodity to be traded on the market. This has created a chasm between the property haves and the property have-nots. One generation's nest egg has become the next generation's insurmountable barrier. We are living in the shadow of their success, renting the homes they own, and watching the wealth gap grow wider with every passing year. This isn't about blaming our parents. It's about recognizing the economic system that has pitted generations against each other. And so we find ourselves here, a generation of unfinished dreams. We are the ones staring out of train windows, wondering if we'll ever arrive at a destination called security. We are the ones endlessly scrolling through job listings on our phones late at night, hoping to find something, anything, with a future. We are a generation caught between the fading promises of the past and the uncertainty of what's to come. As the city lights blur into a distant glow, a chilling thought settles in. For the first time since the Industrial Revolution, the future looks smaller than the past. The horizon seems to be closing in, not expanding. Ever wonder why the gap between the rich and the poor seems wider than ever? It's not just about how much you earn. A huge part of the story is about what you inherit. For many, wealth now flows down family lines, not through paychecks, but through inheritance. Imagine being gifted the keys to a house, a life-changing advantage handed down from one generation to the next. This isn't a rare event. It's a fundamental shift in how prosperity is created. While some are starting the race with a massive head start, others are still at the starting line, trying to figure out how to even begin. This inherited advantage creates a ripple effect, shaping opportunities, dreams, and the very fabric of our society for decades to come. This brings us to the housing trap. For our parents' or grandparents' generation, buying a home was a key part of the dream. It was achievable. But over the years, real estate became the new gold. As cities grew and suburbs sprawled endlessly, property values skyrocketed. Those who bought in early, sometimes for what seems like pocket change today, essentially won the lottery. Their homes became their biggest asset, a nest egg that just kept growing. But for younger generations, the story is starkly different. We're often locked out, facing sky-high prices that make ownership feel like an impossible dream. We become renters, paying off someone else's mortgage, with our own money going into a void instead of building equity. We are trapped, paying forever for a basic need that once seemed like a right. So, what have our leaders done about this? Well, governments have tried to fix inequality, often by focusing on taxes. They debate raising taxes on the wealthy or creating new tax brackets, and while these conversations are important, they often miss the deeper issue: ownership. The core of the problem isn't just about income. It's about assets. Who owns the land? Who owns the property? Who owns the stocks? Policy debates that dance around this fundamental question are like trying to fix a leaky dam with a small piece of tape. They might slow the leak for a moment, but the pressure keeps building. The real conversation we need to have is about how we create pathways to ownership for everyone, not just for those who inherit it. The impact of this isn't just financial, it's deeply emotional. When the basic milestones of life, like buying a home, starting a family, or even just feeling secure, are pushed further and further out of reach, something inside us begins to change. We see young couples delaying marriage, not because they don't want to, but because they can't afford to build a life together. We see families squeezed into tiny apartments, their dreams of a backyard for their kids fading away. We see talented, ambitious people leaving their home countries in search of a future they can no longer find at home. When dreams shrink, so does trust. Trust in our governments, trust in the economic systems we were told would work for everyone, and ultimately, trust in the future itself. It's a quiet crisis of hope that affects us all. But this isn't where the story has to end. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, to look at the scale of the problem and feel powerless. Yet, every generation has its own challenge, its own chapter to write in the long book of history. Perhaps our chapter begins not with inherited wealth, but with something more powerful: awareness. By understanding these systems, by talking about them openly, and by demanding a new approach, we are planting the seeds of change. The future isn't lost. It's not canceled. It might just be delayed, and the work to bring it closer starts now, with us. It starts with the belief that we can build a society where opportunity isn't just inherited, but earned and shared by all. Thank you so much for watching. If this conversation resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content that explores the big questions shaping our world. We'd love to have you as part of our community.